The arena wasn't for him. Jack Reeve woke up face down in the dirt. His body ached. His mouth was dry. The air smelled like metal and dust. When he opened his eyes, he saw a red sky above him. 2 suns glowed through the clouds. He blinked, confused. Where was he? Last thing he remembered, his ship was hit during a space patrol near Sector 14. Alarms, fire, blackness. Now, this. He pushed himself up and looked around. He was in a cage. Thick bars. Strange writing carved into the metal. And across from him, another cage, with a creature inside. 8 feet tall, horns on its head, yellow eyes staring at him without blinking. Jack backed away. What the hell? Before he could think, a loud horn blasted through the air. The ground shook. Gates opened. Guards appeared, tall armored beings with glowing helmets and sharp electric staffs. One pointed at Jack and barked something in a language he didn't understand. The cage opened. Jack didn't move. Another guard stepped in and grabbed him. "Hey, easy," Jack shouted. But they didn't care. They dragged him down a metal hallway past more cages. Some were empty. Some had creatures inside. Some looked like beasts. Some like people. All of them were marked, chained, or bruised. Then, light. They reached the end of the hall and stepped into a massive arena. Jack's eyes widened. He was standing in the middle of a circular field surrounded by thousands of alien spectators. Huge stone seats circled the arena. The crowd roared when they saw him. Above them, giant screens showed his face. He wasn't just in danger. He was in a show. Jack looked around. The floor was cracked, stained with dried blood. Weapons were scattered, near the walls. Blades, spears, strange tools. At the far end, 4 other beings stood waiting, tall, muscular, and armed. The horn blasted again. A booming voice echoed from above, translated in broken English. "Let the ritual of claiming begin." Jack froze. Ritual claiming? Then he noticed something. On a high platform above the arena, a group of female aliens sat on golden thrones. They were elegant, beautiful, and terrifying. Some had glowing tattoos. Some wore armor. All of them stared down at the arena. They were not here to fight. They were here to choose. Suddenly, the guard pushed Jack forward. A sword dropped in front of him. He looked down at it, then up at the others approaching him with weapons drawn. "What kind of sick game is this?" he muttered. Then, the crowd roared again. The first fighter charged. Jack ducked just in time. The alien's blade slashed through the air. Jack grabbed the sword in front of him and swung back, wild and untrained. He didn't hit, but the alien slipped on the dusty floor and fell. Jack didn't wait. He ran, straight at the second fighter, then dodged left. The alien tried to follow but got caught in the first one's stumble. They crashed. Jack kept moving. He didn't try to kill anyone. He just avoided, tricked, sidestepped. By accident or instinct, he outlasted them all. When the final fighter fell, tripped, by another, Jack stood alone. The arena went silent. Then it exploded with cheers. He was still alive. The screens zoomed in on his face. The voice returned. "Unexpected victory. Human male. Claims the right of challenge." Jack gasped. "Wait, what? No, I didn't agree to anything." The guard stepped back. The golden platform rose higher. A new voice, female and sharp, echoed across the arena. "This male has bested the ritual. As our law commands, he may now choose." "Choose what?" Jack shouted. Then one of the females stood up, tall, silver-eyed, with a crown of light. She smiled, and all around her the other royal females stood too. Some curious, some amused, some glaring. Jack's heart pounded. He didn't win a fight. He had accidentally walked into an alien mating ritual, and now they thought he was their champion, the human who shouldn't have survived. The arena was quiet now. Too quiet. Jack stood frozen in the center, sword still in hand, his chest rising and falling fast. Dust swirled around his boots, and the alien crowd watched him like he was some kind of puzzle. Above him, the royal platform hovered midair. The alien females still hadn't sat down. They were whispering in their strange tongue. One pointed at Jack and laughed. Another tilted her head, like she was studying a strange animal. The crowned female, the one who first stood, raised her hand. A glowing banner lit up above the arena, written in golden alien text. Then a soft voice echoed in broken English through the speakers. First trial complete. Human male, still standing. A rare accident. Jack scowled. Nice to know I'm a mistake. A lift rose from beneath the arena and stopped in front of him. A guard motioned him to step on. Jack hesitated. His legs were shaking. His arm burned from where he scraped the stone wall earlier, but he had no choice. He stepped onto the lift. It began to rise, up, toward the platform. The royal court was even more surreal up close. 12 alien females sat in a half circle, each one different in size, skin, and power. Some had reptilian eyes. Others had smooth silver skin, and one had tendrils that moved with every breath. They all looked deadly. None of them looked happy. A voice echoed again, smoother this time. A translation chip somewhere must have improved. Human male. You stand where none of your kind ever have. Tell us. What is your name? Jack swallowed. Jack Reeve. A few of the aliens laughed at the sound of his name. Human. What is your caste? Your rank? Who bred you? Jack blinked. I'm just a soldier. I don't know what you're talking about. And I didn't sign up for this. The crowned one, tall, glowing, sharp-eyed, stepped forward. You survived the trial of blades. That means by our law, you may claim any female here as mate commander. Jack nearly choked. I don't want to claim anybody. Another female, shorter, dressed in silver and blue, leaned forward. Then you are different from the others. They came here for power. You came by mistake. And still one. One of the guards nearby stepped forward. It is not custom, but we must allow him rest before round 2. Jack frowned. Round 2? The crowned female smiled thinly. You didn't think this was over, did you? Later, Jack sat alone in a small chamber made of stone and silk. He had been given strange, glowing water and a bowl of blue fruit that smelled like cinnamon. He hadn't touched either. He just stared at the wall. What the hell is going on? He whispered. He didn't want to win anything. He didn't want to fight again. But he knew how these games worked. He'd seen it during the war. People became symbols. Symbols became tools, and tools always broke. Suddenly, a soft sound behind him. He turned fast, raising his arm, ready to fight. But it wasn't a guard. It was one of the alien females. She stood in the shadows, tall, slim, wearing soft cloth and no armor. Her skin was deep purple, her eyes glowing orange. She looked young, maybe his age, maybe older. It was hard to tell with aliens. She said nothing. Jack kept his voice calm. I don't know your rules, but I'm guessing this visit isn't allowed. Stepped closer. Her voice was soft, smooth, and perfect English. No. It is not allowed. Then why are you here? Because I saw you hesitate, Jack frowned. Hesitate? You didn't kill any of the others. You avoided them. You moved like prey, but you still survived. He didn't reply. She walked closer and sat across from him. They fear you now. Not because you're strong, but because you don't want what they want. Jack stared. And what do you want? She leaned forward. To not be won. He didn't answer, because deep down, he felt the same. He hadn't come to win. He had come to survive. And somehow, that had made him dangerous. Outside, in the upper chamber, the crowned female watched a glowing screen. She saw Jack and the quiet female speaking. Her eyes narrowed. He doesn't even understand what he is, she said. Servant nearby asked, should we stop the second trial? No, she said coldly. Let him keep winning. Every fight meant more than blood. Jack stood in the center of the arena again. This time it was quiet. No roaring crowd, no flashing lights. Just silence. And eyes. Thousands of them. The seats were full, but no one cheered. The first trial had been for entertainment. The second one was for judgment. Up above, the royal thrones were now split. Some of the alien females watched him with curiosity. A few smiled, but others looked angry, insulted, like he had broken something sacred. He wasn't sure what. The horn blared again, but this time, no opponent entered. Instead, the floor opened beneath his feet and he dropped into darkness. He landed on a soft surface. Dust rose around him. The space was round and dim, lit by glowing stones in the walls. A platform sat in the middle with weapons. Again. But different kinds now. More advanced. Blades and shields with strange alien tech. Some pulsed with heat. Some hummed with quiet energy. A voice echoed through the room. Second trial. Proving of intent. Use any tool. Win not with death, but decision. Jack frowned. What does that even mean? Then the doors across from him opened. 4 new challengers stepped in, not fighters this time. 3 were females. 1 was a child. The crowd above didn't roar. They waited. Jack froze. The opponents weren't coming at him. They were standing still. Each held a weapon. Each waited for his move. And suddenly, he understood. This wasn't about fighting. It was about choosing what to do when you could win easily, or walk away. He stepped toward the platform. Now he picked up a glowing staff. It was light and warm but strong. A fighting stick. Not sharp. Not deadly. He turned toward the challengers. The first one stepped forward. A tall female with silver armor and a scar across her eye. She bowed and charged. Jack didn't attack. He blocked, dodged, moved carefully. He only used enough force to defend himself. He tripped her gently and stepped back. She hit the floor. Hard. Then laughed. She bowed again and sat in the corner. The crowd stirred. Murmurs, confusion. The second female stepped forward. She had no armor, just speed. She moved fast, striking from both sides. Jack had to react quickly. His heart raced, but again he didn't strike to hurt, just to move her aside, redirect her momentum. She slipped, hit the wall. She groaned but stood. She gave him a look, half impressed, half frustrated, and joined the first in the corner. The third stepped forward. The child stood still. Jack hesitated. The third fighter didn't attack. She placed her weapon on the floor, walked to the child, and stood beside her. Then she looked at Jack and said in clear English, "Finish us." Jack dropped his staff. No. Silence. Above, the crowned female rose from her throne. Why? She asked. Jack looked up. Because strength isn't just about beating someone. He looked at the child. It's about knowing when not to. The room shook. A deep chime echoed through the arena. One by one, every light turned blue. A voice boomed. Trial passed. Human chose balance. Second trial, complete. Back in his chamber, Jack sat alone again. He was shaking, not from fear, from anger. Why are they testing me like this, he muttered. What am I supposed to be proving? Before he could think more, the door opened. The quiet, purple-skinned female entered again, the one who had spoken to him the night before. You passed the proving, she said. They didn't expect that. Jack looked up. They thought I'd kill a kid? She sat down across from him. They thought you'd follow instinct, that you'd want to win. I don't want to win. I just want out. You're already in too deep. Jack sighed. What happens if I pass all the trials? She was quiet for a moment. Then she whispered, You don't just win the females. You inherit the right to lead our kind. Jack's mouth opened. Me? Lead? I don't even understand your laws. That's why they fear you, she said. Because you don't want the crown. And the last time someone didn't want it, they changed everything. High above, the crowned female stood with 2 other royals in a private chamber. He should not have passed. One of them growled. He shows no desire for power, another said. The crowned one's eyes narrowed. Then, we'll give him a trial, where desire cannot be hidden. The final female has plans of her own. The night before the third trial, Jack didn't sleep. He stared at the ceiling of his stone chamber, thinking about everything. The arena, the strange trials, the alien queens, and most of all, the quiet one. The purple-skinned female who had visited him twice now. She never gave her name. But she understood him more than anyone else here. He sat up. Something wasn't right. At midnight, the guards came. No warning, no explanation. Just a sharp knock, and then a silent escort down a long, glowing hallway he hadn't seen before. Jack stayed calm, but his pulse raced. This wasn't part of the trials. It felt different, secret, cold. They entered a tall, dark room filled with glass walls and hanging crystals. It looked more like a throne room than a prison or a test. Then, he saw her, the crowned female. She stood alone in the center, arms crossed, wearing a long robe of golden threads. Her silver eyes glowed under the dim blue light. She looked both beautiful and terrifying. Jack stepped forward. "You wanted to see me?" he asked. She studied him for a long time before speaking. "You're not like the others," she said. "You should have died in the first round." "Sorry to disappoint." She walked toward him slowly. "Do you know what you've done?" she asked. "By surviving 2 trials, by refusing the rules, you've split the court." Jack frowned. "Split it? Half of the royal females now support you, the others want you removed." Quietly, Jack crossed his arms. "Why bring me here?" "To offer a choice." She stopped in front of him. "I know who you are. Earth soldier, human, dangerous when cornered, but soft where it matters." Jack didn't answer. "I can end this," she said. "You can leave, alive. No more trials, no crown, no war." "What's the price?" he asked. She leaned close. "You give up your claim, and give yourself to me." Jack stepped back. "You mean as a mate?" She smiled. "No, as a weapon. A pet. A trophy I keep close. One the others fear." Jack's hands tightened into fists. "No," she raised an eyebrow. "You refuse me?" "I don't belong to anyone." Her smile faded. "You've made your choice," she said. Then she stepped aside, and the walls changed. The glass behind her faded, revealing something else. The quiet female, the one who had visited Jack. She was inside a cell, chained, eyes closed, breathing. Slow Jack's heart dropped. "What did you do to her?" "She broke the rules," the queen said. "Entered your chamber, spoke to you privately, gave you insight into our world. That's treason." Jack moved toward the glass, but a force field stopped him. "She helped me," he said. "She didn't betray you. She tried to save your world. She acted without permission. That's weakness." Jack turned toward the queen. "No, that's courage." Back in the royal hall, the council gathered at dawn. The third trial was about to begin, but Jack wasn't brought to the arena. He was placed on the platform, beside the queens. The crowned one stood and raised her voice. "Council, the male has seen our ways. He has passed trials of strength and purpose, but a third test remains." She looked at Jack. "A test of loyalty." She pointed to the center of the chamber. The quiet female, now known to the court as Alari, was brought forward. She looked tired, bruised, but her eyes still burned with defiance. Jack felt the weight in his chest. "This female," the queen said, "violated sacred law. If he wishes to continue, he must deliver the sentence himself." A long blade appeared beside him. Jack didn't move. He stared at Alari. She didn't beg. She didn't speak. She just stared back at him, like she trusted him. Completely. Jack turned to the queen, then to the council, and he laughed. "Now I get it," he said. "The trials weren't about strength or power or even leadership." He picked up the blade. "They were about seeing if I'd become like you." He turned the blade and dropped it. "No." Gasps filled the room. Jack stepped beside Alari. If I'm going to lead, I'll do it with people like her. The Queen hissed. Then you lose everything. Jack smirked. I didn't come here to win anything. A pause. Then, a whisper. From the back of the court, another queen stood. I support him. Then another. And another. Until half the court had stepped forward. The queen stared, trembling. You have no idea what you've started. Jack placed a hand on Alari's shoulder. Then I'll finish it. The last trial wasn't a battle. Jack stood alone in a white room. No weapons, no guards, no crowd. The walls pulsed softly, glowing like the inside of a living creature. The floor beneath him felt warm, almost like skin. He didn't know how long he had been there. Minutes? Hours? Time didn't move the same here. This wasn't a battlefield. This was something else. This was the final trial. A voice echoed from nowhere and everywhere at once. It was female, calm, and strangely kind. Jack Reeve, you passed the trials of strength. You passed the trials of intention. But your last test is not about others. It is about you. He looked around. Is this another trap? No. The walls shifted. And suddenly, he wasn't in the White Room anymore. He was back on Earth. Home. But it wasn't real. The trees looked too perfect, the air too still. And the house in front of him, the one from his childhood, stood exactly as he remembered, down to the broken porch light. He stepped forward. Inside, a table was set. Food, warm, light laughter, people. People he had lost. His mother, his brother, his squad mate from the war. They turned and smiled at him. Come sit, his mother said gently. Jack froze. His heart ached. This couldn't be real. He knew it. Still, his legs wanted to move. He wanted to sit. He wanted to believe. Then the voice returned. Stay. And this life is yours. Peace. Family. Everything you've missed. Jack looked at them. They didn't fade. They didn't glitch. It was perfect. Too perfect. He turned his back. I can't. Why not? Because out there, he said, is a woman waiting to die if I don't go back. The room vanished. Now he stood in darkness. Nothing but a single beam of light. And under it, a figure, Alari, on her knees, eyes closed, breathing slow, but different. She was older now. Her skin was cracked with light, and when she looked up, she said only one thing. What did you choose? Jack didn't speak. He just walked toward her and placed his hand over hers. I chose to be here. Light exploded around them. The room shattered like glass, and Jack fell to his knees, gasping. Back in reality. Back in the trial chamber. Guards were watching. The council stood in silence. The crowned queen stared at him. You rejected paradise? Jack nodded. I rejected the easy way out. The queen stepped forward. Then you pass. She held out a small silver ring, a symbol of final claim. Jack stared at it, then looked at Alari. She was no longer chained. She walked to him, silent, graceful. He held the ring, but instead of placing it on her, he offered it, open palm. Her choice, not his. She looked at it, smiled, then took his hand, not the ring, and said softly, then let's change everything. Together. Cheers erupted from the lower levels. The royal court split fully now, half kneeling, half walking away in defeat. The queen who once threatened him said nothing more. She turned and left, because he hadn't won by force. He had won by refusing to become one of them. Later, Jack stood on the balcony of the palace, Alari beside him. The skies above the planet had changed. The court had shifted. No more blood trials, no more ownership, only alliance. One of the younger royals walked up to him. Will you wear the crown? She asked. Jack looked at Alari. She shook her head slightly. He smiled. No, he said. Let her. The girl looked confused. She saved me before I ever saved her. And so, the crown passed hands, not by law, but by choice. And for the first time in generations, the throne was held not by the strongest, but by the one who knew when not to fight. He took the throne, but not the crown. The palace was quiet, not because it was empty, but because for the first time in generations, no one was shouting, no orders, no trials, no fights, only questions, and all of them were for Jack Reeve, the human who won a deadly mating ritual without killing, without claiming, and without wanting the prize. He sat in the grand hall, not on the throne but beside it, on a bench made of wood and stone, polished but plain. Alari sat in the throne now. She didn't wear the crown. Not yet. It rested beside her, untouched. Jack had refused it. But the people, the court, the guards, the outer worlds watching through the sky screens, they didn't care about what he refused. They only saw the human who changed the rules, and now they wanted to see what he would do with power. A group of younger nobles entered. 3 of them. 1 bowed. The others didn't. "Champion," the lead one said, "we've come with a petition, since you are now our guide." Jack raised an eyebrow. "I'm not your king." The noble smiled. "No, but you are the reason the old queen is gone. And in this world, perception is power." Jack leaned forward. "Then change your perception." The room fell silent. The nobles didn't speak again. They simply bowed and left. Later, Jack stood on a wide terrace looking down at the training grounds. Alien soldiers were sparring below, moving in fluid shapes, beautiful and brutal. Alari walked up behind him. "You're quiet," she said. "I didn't expect any of this." "You didn't ask for it," she said, smiling. "That's why it followed you." Jack looked at her. "I didn't come here to lead. I didn't come here to fix anything. I crash-landed into your world, and now I'm a symbol." She nodded. "That's what we needed." That night, a group of court members gathered in the council hall. They were expecting a formal announcement, something traditional, a coronation, a royal speech. What they got was very different. Jack walked in wearing the same dark shirt he had fought in. No robe, no armor, no blade. He stood beside Alari, who wore a simple sash. Nothing more. Jack raised a hand. "I'm not here to rule you." Murmurs rippled through the room. He continued. "I'm here because I was tested. Not by blades, but by choices. And if your people want peace, real peace, it won't come from rituals. It won't come from thrones. It will come from how you treat the ones below you." He looked at each of them. The guards, the workers, the young, the ones who never had a voice. The old high speaker asked, "Then what do you want from us?" Jack turned to Alari. "I want you to listen to her." She stepped forward, and the room fell completely silent. Alari spoke, her voice calm but strong. "For too long we judged strength by who could hurt, who could take. But the human showed us something we forgot." She looked around the room. "He taught us that the strongest act is choosing not to destroy." From that day forward, everything changed. The blood trials were ended. The mating rituals were rewritten, and leadership became shared between council people and a human who never wore a crown, but still sat at the center of every decision. In the outer colonies, people whispered of the change. Some called it weakness, others called it evolution, and in quiet corners of the galaxy, small uprisings stopped. Why? Because a new name was spoken now with respect and curiosity. Jack Reeve, the man who took the throne, but not the power. One evening, Jack sat with Alari on the edge of the palace wall, legs dangling above the courtyard. A soft breeze passed by. "I thought crowns were shiny," he said. Alari smiled. "They are." He looked at her. "But this one feels heavy." She placed her hand on his. "That's how you know you're wearing it right." He didn't answer. But for the first time since he crashed onto this alien world, he didn't feel lost. He felt home. He didn't come for them, but they chose him anyway. The sky above the palace turned violet. Storm clouds gathered not from weather, but from war. A fleet of ships, black and wide like wings, hovered above the planet. Not just any ships. Council, war cruisers. The outer tribunal had arrived. They watched the trial recordings. They heard the reports. A human had won a sacred challenge. Alien tradition had been broken. Now they wanted order restored, their version of order. And if that meant removing Jack Reeve and Alari by force, they were prepared. Inside the palace, tension rose like heat. The nobles panicked. Old council members whispered of surrender. Some even blamed Alari for bringing the human curse to their doorstep. But Jack didn't run. He stood in the center of the royal court, calm and unshaken. "We knew this might happen," he said. Alari stood beside him. "They think they can make an example out of us." "Then let's give them one," Jack replied. That evening, a transmission from the tribunal ship lit up the sky. A tall alien leader appeared on every screen. "This is a violation of the ancient accords. Surrender the human and the false queen, or we will come down and take your world." The court looked to Jack. He didn't move. Instead, he opened a private channel and recorded just one message. It was short, and it traveled fast across the planet, then beyond, to every free station, every allied world, every rebel moon that ever whispered of independence. In the video, Jack stood before the throne, no crown, no army behind him, only his voice. "I didn't come here to rule. I didn't ask to be chosen. But I was. And not by power, not by blood, but by those who had none of it, and still stood beside me." He looked straight into the camera. "I'm not your king. I'm just a man who refused to kneel, and I will never ask others to kneel for me." The next morning, the tribunal prepared to launch until their systems were flooded with signals from dozens of other planets, messages, protests, support. Other leaders stood up finally after years of silence, and one by one, they sided with the human. The fleet left quietly, not out of mercy, but because they realized something terrifying. Jack Reeve had become more than a champion. He was now a standard, a new measure of strength, not because he won the ritual, but because he turned it into something else. Weeks later, the palace opened its gates to all species. New laws were signed. The throne became symbolic. And Jack, he stayed, but never in the throne room. He worked in the gardens, taught in the warrior halls, listened more than he spoke. One afternoon, a young alien child ran up to him. "Are you really the human who won the trial?" she asked, wide-eyed. Jack smiled. "Yeah." "Did you take all the royal females?" He chuckled. "No. They took me." The girl laughed and ran off. Alari walked up behind him, hearing it. "She's not wrong," she said. Jack looked at her. "You could have ruled alone." She shook her head. "No, I could have survived, but I wouldn't have changed anything." That night, the stars above the Capitol were brighter than ever. Thousands of voices rose in song, not for war, not for tradition, but for something new, something chosen. And in the center of it all stood Jack. Not a hero, not a king, just a man who answered a call, not with a sword but with a choice.